The call came in at 11:47 in the morning. I know the exact time because I was standing in my backyard, holding a cup of coffee and staring at the peeling porch ceiling with the quiet satisfaction of a man who had just done something completely insane and gotten away with it. The phone buzzed. It was a 911 dispatcher calling me back to confirm my address, not because I had called 911, because my neighbor had. About me. On the day I moved into a house I legally purchased for $100. This is that story. My name is Daniel Roque. I'm 31 years old. I work remotely as a software developer, and for 2 years I had been renting a small apartment on the edge of a quiet suburb called Maplewood Estates. The neighborhood was the kind of place where everyone had a Ring doorbell, a leased SUV, and a strong opinion about grass height. I liked it well enough, but I'd always wanted to own something. The house at 14 Sycamore Court had been sitting empty for 4 years. It was a mid-century ranch-style home, small, maybe 1,100 square feet, with a caved-in gutter, boards over two of the windows, and a front yard so overgrown that the mailbox had been swallowed whole by a blackberry bush. The previous owner, a man named Gerald Hofstede, had died intestate with no living relatives and considerable unpaid property taxes. The county had taken possession. After three failed auction cycles with no bidders, they dropped the reserves to $1. I showed up at the fourth auction with a certified check for $100, just in case someone else appeared, and walked out with the deed. The county clerk, a woman in her 60s with reading glasses on a beaded chain, looked at me over the rims as she processed the paperwork. "You know what you're getting into, son?" she asked. "Not even a little bit," I told her honestly. She stamped the deed anyway. It was mine. I pulled up to 14 Sycamore Court on a Tuesday morning with a rented cargo van, a toolbox, and a folding chair. I wasn't moving in yet. The interior needed serious work before it was livable, but I wanted to walk the property, take measurements, and start figuring out what I was dealing with. I'd been there maybe 20 minutes, clearing brush from the front steps with a pair of loppers, when I heard a voice behind me. "Excuse me." I turned around, standing at the edge of the property line, not on the sidewalk, not on her own lawn, but right at the invisible boundary line like she'd GPSed it, was a woman in her mid-50s. She was wearing a cream-colored blazer over a floral blouse, holding a leather portfolio under one arm, and had the kind of expression that said she had rehearsed this conversation in her bathroom mirror. "I'm Sandra Plum," she said, "president of the Maplewood States Homeowners Association. And you are?" "Daniel Rourke, new owner." I held out my hand. She didn't shake it. "New owner," she repeated, as if the concept required processing. "And how exactly did that happen?" "This property has been in county limbo for years." "Tax lien auction," I said. "Bought it yesterday morning." Her jaw shifted. "Well, as the new owner, you'll need to register with the HOA within 30 days and submit a property improvement plan for board approval before beginning any exterior work. We also have a noise ordinance between the hours of—" "Sandra," I said, as gently as I could manage, "this property isn't part of the HOA. Gerald Hofstede never enrolled it. The county acquisition didn't change that. I checked before I bought it. I'm not subject to your CC&Rs." The leather portfolio tightened under her arm. Her chin lifted exactly 1 degree. "We'll see about that," she said. She turned and walked back across the street in a perfectly straight line, like a woman who had decided that walking away was merely a tactical pause. Over the next 2 weeks I began the slow, dusty, deeply satisfying work of bringing the house back to life. I hired a licensed contractor named Pete to handle the structural stuff: roof repairs, the caved-in soffit, some rotted subfloor near the back bathroom. I handled the cosmetic work myself, painting, cleaning, landscaping, interior demolition of a truly horrifying drop ceiling from the 1970s that was hiding perfectly good wooden beams underneath. Sandra Plum watched all of it from across the street. I don't mean that metaphorically. She watched. Every morning when I arrived, I could see her standing at her front window with a coffee mug, a notepad, and the focus of someone monitoring a crime scene. Some mornings she had joined by other women, HOA board members, I assumed, who would cluster at the window and point at whatever I was doing. The complaint started on day 3. Sandra called the city building department to report that I was performing unpermitted construction. The building department sent an inspector. Inspector reviewed Pete's permits, which were completely in order, and left. Sandra called the health department, claiming the property was a rodent hazard. A health inspector came, found no evidence of infestation, and left. She filed a noise complaint with the city, claiming construction noise before 7 a.m. My crew didn't start until 8. The complaint was dismissed. Each failed complaint seemed to wind Sandra tighter, like a spring that had run out of room to compress. I could feel it building. Something was coming. I just didn't know what form it would take. I found out on a Wednesday. It was just before noon. Pete's crew had the day off. It was a solo day for me. Interior work only. I was inside pulling up old carpet in the living room when I heard tires on gravel, then voices, then a knock on the front door that had a very specific authoritative rhythm to it. I opened the door. 2 police officers stood on my porch. One was young, maybe 26, with a notepad already out. The other was older, somewhere in his late 40s, with a calm face and the practiced stillness of someone who had responded to a lot of calls and learned not to assume anything before hearing both sides. "Are you the occupant of this property?" the older one asked. "I am the owner," I said. "Daniel Rourke. What's going on?" "We received a 911 call reporting a possible break-in and trespassing at this address," he said. The caller stated that an unknown individual was seen forcing entry into an abandoned property. I stared at him for a moment. Then I started to laugh. Not because it was funny, exactly, but because the audacity of it had temporarily overwhelmed my ability to respond in any other way. I caught myself. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm not laughing at you. I'm the owner. I bought this property at county tax auction 2 weeks ago. I had the deed inside. Can I get it?" "Please," the older officer said. I retrieved the deed, the county transfer paperwork, and because I had almost by instinct photographed every document and uploaded it to Google Drive, I also pulled up the digital copies on my phone as backup. The older officer reviewed everything carefully. The younger one took notes. Across the street, Sandra Plum's front door was open about 4 inches. I could see the cream-colored blazer in the gap. The older officer, his nameplate read Sergeant Warren, handed my documents back. "Everything looks in order," he said. "You're the legal owner of record." He paused and looked across the street. "Do you know who called this in?" "I have a strong suspicion," I said. Sergeant Warren nodded slowly in the way of a man who also had a strong suspicion. "I'm going to go have a conversation," he said. "You're not in any trouble. Stay put." He and his partner walked across the street. Sandra opened the door before they knocked. She was ready for them, portfolio in hand, talking immediately, gesturing towards my house. I watched from my porch as Sergeant Warren listened without expression, occasionally glancing back at my property. After about 4 minutes he said something brief. Sandra's gestures slowed. She said something else. He shook his head once and said something else. The younger officer wrote something in his notepad. Then they both walked back. "Miss Plum is being advised that filing a false 911 report is a misdemeanor," Sergeant Warren said to me, back on my porch. "She's claiming she didn't know you were the owner, which is possible, but given the nature of the call and what appears to be an ongoing dispute, she's been warned. If this continues and we can establish that she knowingly made a false report, she can be cited or charged." "I understand," I said. "What should I do to protect myself going forward?" "Document everything," he said. "Keep your deed accessible. And if I were you, I'd consider some exterior cameras. He looked at the house. You've got good bones here. Nice project. Thank you, I said. I think so too. I had the exterior cameras installed by Friday. 4 of them, front, back, and both sides. I also sent a formal letter to Sandra Plum via certified mail, drafted with the help of a real estate attorney I found online for a flat consultation fee. The letter outlined my ownership status, confirmed that the property was not subject to HOA jurisdiction, noted the police visit and the officer's warning regarding false reports, and politely but clearly stated that any future interference with my lawful use of my property would be documented and addressed through appropriate legal channels. The certified mail receipts came back signed. Sandra had accepted the letter. The complaints stopped. The window watching continued for another week or so, then tapered off. By the time I moved into the finished house 6 weeks later, new paint, repaired roof, a small garden bed along the front walk, and beams in the living room that I had sanded and sealed myself, Sandra acknowledged my existence with a tight nod when we got our mail at the same time. I nodded back. That was enough. I've been living at 14 Sycamore Court for 8 months now. The blackberry bush is gone. The mailbox is visible again. On weekend mornings, I sit on the porch with a cup of coffee and watch the street wake up. Sprinklers coming on, dogs being walked, the ordinary, unremarkable rhythm of a neighborhood going about its business. Sometimes I think about the county clerk with her beaded glosses asking if I knew what I was getting into. She was right to ask. I got a house that needed everything. I got a neighbor who called the police on me the day I arrived. I got a crash course in property law, HOA regulations, building permits, and certified mail. But I also got something that nobody on Sycamore Court, with their leased SUVs and perfectly approved paint colors, seemed to fully appreciate. A deed with my name on it, bought for $100 at a county auction, on a property that answers to no HOA, no boat, and no woman in a cream-colored blazer with a leather portfolio and a very strong opinion about how things should be done. If you're thinking about buying a distressed property, attending a tax lien auction, or dealing with an HOA that thinks its authority extends further than it legally does, know you're right. Read the documents, keep your receipts, install the cameras, and never, ever let someone else's entitlement make you question whether you belong somewhere you legally own. I paid $100 for this house, and I would do it again tomorrow.